Chapter 25. We squished through the mud to Portsmouth Square, going right to the old schoolhouse, a small single-story wooden building. When we reached it, I stood next to Señor Rosales at the front door, trying to catch my breath and unclutter my thoughts. "What do you wish to do?" he asked me. "I can talk to whoever is here, but perhaps it's better that you do. Jacob is your hermano." It may seem stupid to say, or even simple, but I was learning that being frightened while trying to decide the right thing to do is difficult. I struggled hard to control my distress. "I'll talk," I said, and forced myself to stand straight and wipe the tears from my face. "I'm ready," I said, although I didn't think I was. "Bueno, think for a moment what you will say." I took a deep breath, then nodded. Señor Rosales pushed the door open. It was a large room divided in half, front and back, with a door to the back part. Next to the door was a bench with a man sitting on it. He was bent over reading the Alta California, the newspaper for which Thad's father worked. When we came in, this man looked up. His weather-beaten face bore a large and crooked nose, as if it had been broken some while ago. The skin above his small eyes was puffy, his mouth set in a frown, his chin neither smooth nor bearded, while his thick hair was much dishevelled. A large pistol was stuck in his belt. In short, there was something altogether disagreeable about him. Señor Rosales spoke first. "Señor, con respecto, where is the police chief?" The man looked at me, and then at Señor Rosales. He appeared to be one of those people who take time to speak, not because he is thinking, but to show you he is in charge. When he did respond, he nodded toward the door, saying, "Don't know if he's there." "Why?" I said. "He don't answer to me." With that the man shook out the paper as if it contained crumbs that needed disposing of. Then he made a demonstration of resuming his reading. Ignoring him, I went forward and knocked on the door. No one answered. I looked at Señor Rosales. He pursed his lips. I looked at the man with the newspaper. Though he kept his eyes fixed on the paper, I was sure he was not reading, but waiting to see what I did. Agitated, desperate to do something, I twisted the big doorknob and pushed the door open. There was a big oaken desk in the middle of this smaller room, plus a few large chairs. On the wall hung a picture of James Polk, the former President of the United States, the one whose words had brought my father and thousands of others to California. A man behind the desk was leaning forward, his head resting in his arms. Judging by his heavy, steady breathing, he was asleep. I shoved the door farther in, went forward, and stood before the desk. "Sir," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The man didn't move. I looked at Señor Rosales. He shrugged. "Captain Fallon," I called louder. When he didn't stir, I leaned over the desk. "Captain Fallon, sir. Hello." Very slowly the man sat up, revealing a square, fleshy face with bags under small, sleepy eyes. His mouth was thin-lipped, and he had a high, receding hairline topped with thin, curly hair. He looked first at Señor Rosales, and then at me as if struggling to grasp that we were even there. "Sir," I said, "I need help." "Well now," he muttered, rubbing his face, "and what might be the kind of help you're asking for?" "Please, sir," I said again, "are you Captain Fallon, the police chief?" "It's what I'm called." "Please, I really need help." "Do you?" He took a deep breath, and his baleful eyes considered me with as much sympathy as if I were a stray dog. I said, "I think my brother has been kidnapped." Captain Fallon barely reacted. He simply clasped his large hands before him and continued to sit there as if not interested, or perhaps not understanding. "And who is your brother?" "Jacob Lydell." "Young? Old?" "10." "Ah," he said, and actually yawned. "Just a lad. Who are you, and what's your age?" "I'm Victoria Blydell. I'm 14. "A girl." The way he said it was dismissive. "This man," he nodded to Señor Rosales. "Who is he?" "A friend. He's helping me. My father is at the diggings." "Where's your ma?" "She'll be here any day now, from back east." "You're alone, then?" "Yes, sir." Captain Fallon studied his hands, then sighed as if bored. "Have you," he said, without looking up, any idea how many people every day go missing from this city?" "No, sir," I said. "And 99 out of 100 have only taken themselves off to the goldfields." "Jacob wouldn't do that." The man's sleepy eyes lifted and studied me for a while. "All right, then," he said, as if obliged. "Tell me about your brother." As I repeated what Sam had told me, Mr. Fallon's face screwed up into a scowl. "Who told you all that?" "A boy." "What boy?" "A Negro boy who plays bugle at the Mercury," I blurted out. "He lives in Happy Valley." "Colored boy, you say, at the Mercury. What makes you so sure he's telling the truth?" "Because I trust him, and my brother is gone." Next moment I realized what I'd done, exactly what Sam had asked me not to do, reveal him as the source of my information. Captain Fallon frowned. "How long has your brother been missing?" "A day." "One day." He passed a hand over his face, as if wiping away sleep or my remarks. "Look here, listen to me. This brother of yours, he most likely went off to have a bit of fun. It's what boys do. You needn't worry none. If I were you, I'd go about your business. He'll be coming back." "But, sir, you said your father is at the diggings. Have you considered that your brother went looking for him?" "I don't think. What's your name again?" "Victoria Blydell." He considered me with cloudy eyes. "Well, now, I'll tell you what, Miss Victoria. If your brother don't come back in a few days, you be sure to let me know. But, for now, no more." With that, Captain Fallon lowered his head back into his arms. In seconds I heard his heavy, steady breathing. He was not just telling us to go, he had gone back to sleep. Or he was pretending to be. Furious, I walked out of the office. As we came out, the man on the bench glanced up at me from his newspaper. The door to Chief Fallon's office having remained open, I wondered if this man had overheard my conversation. Not that he said anything to me, or I to him. He returned to his newspaper as if what he was reading was more interesting than me. The moment Señor Rosales and I were out of the building, I cried, "Jacob did not go off for fun, and he didn't go to the diggings, not without telling me." "I don't think so either," Señor Rosales replied. As we started back toward the tent, he kept one hand on my shoulder as if to steady me. We had to work our way through crowds. After a while I said, "I have to search those ships." He halted. "What ships?" "Rotten Row." "The abandoned ones?" "Yes." He looked downhill toward the cove. "Corderita, there are so many. Cientos. Hundreds. That isn't smart. I don't call you Corderito, little lamb, for nothing. Lobos, wolves. Don't forget the lobos." "But what else am I to do?" I cried, struggling yet again to keep back tears. Ashamed, I turned away. For a moment I thought I saw that man, the one in the police office. Was he following us? I trusted nothing. At that moment Señor Rosales touched my shoulder. I swung around to face him. "Maybe Jacob will come back on his own. After all, you broke your oar when you went down the bay, but you still managed to return." "Jacob doesn't do things like that. He's timid. And I told that man about Sam," I cried. "I promised I wouldn't." "I am not sure, Corderita, the police chief listened to anything you said." I looked back to see if that man was behind us. If it had been him, he was no longer there. I decided I was just inventing more problems. Increasingly unnerved, I started up walking again. I did not speak. It was raining. Señor Rosales said, "Muy bien, search. But you can't search those empty ships alone. It will be not safe, and the rain—" "I have to." "I'm the adulto here. I'll go with you." "You can't leave your cafe. You don't have doors." "Have faith, Corderita. People will not steal. Besides, Jacob and you are más importantes." "Gracias," I returned, feeling it deeply. But I had no patience to listen. What I wanted to do was immediately go to those empty ships. Yes, there were hundreds, but I was convinced Jacob was in one of them. We walked the rest of the way back in silence. The rain stopped and started again. Not that I cared. "You must find Jacob," was the thought that repeated itself over and over again in my head. "You must."